Okay, let's get started. We're working on our mini basket ornament today, and we'll be using this kit to create it. You can purchase these kits on my website. If you're not using a kit, we are going to be using number 2 round reed, and you'll be using 16 spokes cut at 18 inches long. In addition, you'll be using 2 additional spokes cut at 10 inches long, and then you'll be using about 300 inches of number 2 round reed. If you're more advanced and you'd like to add some color, feel free to weave in some colored spokes, but for today we're going to be utilizing our mini basket ornament kit in all natural. So once you get your kit, you're going to go ahead and soak all of the pieces. Go ahead and take everything out of the bag and go ahead and put it in a tub of warm water. You can use, this is a dish tub, that's my go-to. And just warm water that you can touch, and we're going to go ahead and soak it there. The tools we'll be using today include some weave trimmers, weave trimmers there. We've got my trusty awl, and I also like to use this one. And then we have our little hair trimmers for cleaning up at the end with all the little hairs off of the reed. If you don't have these items, you can utilize a pair of scissors and anything that's kind of got a sharp point to help you open up spaces. So even a screwdriver or a piece of wood that will help you. This is my compactor, but you can utilize it to open up spaces as well. You could even utilize a pencil to help you create space. So if you don't have the tools, feel free to use these. Your scissors will work because this is very thin reed. If you want tools, again, on my website at craftisnal.etsy.com, I do carry a toolkit for all of my weavers who are getting started or need to replace their implements. They're available there. Okay, now that we have got our weavers soaking, you're going to notice a couple different elements in here. They're all going to be mixed up, but we'll go ahead and take these out and take a look at what we have. So we are going to utilize these 2 10-inch pieces in a little bit. This big wad is going to be our weaver, so this is going to go around the basket. And then these are our spokes, and this is what we are going to start with. Each of these spokes are 18 inches, so we're going to want to find the visual middle. I like working on this kind of graph. It helps me figure out what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and just take to the end and go to about 9 inches, and that's going to be our middle. Just visually, there you go. And we're going to use 4 over 4 over 4 over 4. And we're going to start that way. So we're going to take 4 over 4. There we go. And again, visually centered is fine. You don't have to get overly specific because there's enough here to cut out. And we are going to be making about a 2 to 2.5 inch basket depending on how you are doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and set these down. There you go. Like that. And then we're going to go ahead and add additional 4 weavers. Put these out of the way so we don't have any confusion. And we're going to lay those down crosswise over the plus sign or the cross that we already created. And now we're going to make an X over top. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 over top this way. All right, so you should have something that looks like this. Now, if you feel like you're having trouble keeping everything together, you can go ahead and take a minute and weave a string or a ribbon through there to keep everything together. But honestly, I just go to town and I start with a weaver. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out one of my weavers out of what's left. And these weavers are going to be longer. They'll vary in length depending on what you need, but we're going to start There we go. I'm going to start with a weaver. And we're going to go around 2 times over and under these groups of 4. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and tuck my weaver, the start of it, in here under the X and over the cross so you can't see it. Okay. And then we're going to start going over and under, and I am going to go over this one and under this one. Okay. So over, and we're going to go under this group, okay, and then we're going to go over this group and under this group, all the time just using my hands to hold this in place. Over, under, you'll see I'm push these together because I want them nice and tight, and I'm guiding this weaver in as tight as I can get it. You don't want it loose, you want it as tight as you can get it. Okay, and then under. And then we're going to go around again. Okay, so now you're going to start to see it'll go in the same direction. We're not going to switch anything. It'll be exactly the same, just right next to it. And you're going to start to see it circling out. So it should start to round itself. And that's when you know that you're starting to be in the right position with everything. Now, working with reed is a lot like trying to tame an octopus. The reed goes everywhere, so don't get frustrated with that. Once you get used to working with it, it will calm itself down. Okay, so we have gone over twice, and you should have a bottom that looks like this. Once you have come across and you're about to start the third, we are actually going to go and double back. And what this does is this is going to allow us to go in the other direction and go under the ones we went over before and over the ones we went under. So we're going to double it back. Now your reed should be nice and wet, and it should go ahead and bend easily, but just in case, a trick that most basket weavers will use when they are bending reed is to go ahead and crimp that that piece. I like to use these like pliers or jewelry pliers and just kind of give it a smush, and that will make it a lot easier to bend without breaking the reed. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to go over and under. You can use your fingernails, anything to kind of squish the reed so that the fibers don't break when you go in the opposite direction. Okay, there we go. And now you'll see we're going in the opposite direction. All right. And we're going to do this 2 times as well. And again, keep everything as tight as you can because it's a lot easier to maneuver the reed when it's nice and tight as opposed to trying to tighten it up later. It's not that you can't take the slack out later, but it's better if you try to keep the slack out in the first place. There we go. Here we are going around the second time. Okay. All right, and once you get to where you doubled back, go ahead and stop, and we'll move to the next section. Okay, now we are ready to move forward with completing the base and rounding up into the sides. This basket uses a traditional over-under plating. It's just fairly simple. There's no special weaves. But in order to do that, we need an odd number of spokes. And as you can see, we're using an even number of pieces. So in order for us to make this work, we need to add an additional pair of spokes. Moving forward, we're going to be weaving over and under pairs of spokes. And we'll need to add an extra pair of spokes so that we have an odd number of pairs. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and slide these two 10-inch pieces that are cut in your kit, and we're going to put one on one side and one on the other, and we're going to use our awl to make room. So here I'm going to choose this line because I've gone under and over, and then it goes under this part here. This spoke will be hidden from view, and that makes it the perfect spot. So we're going to go ahead and take our awl, and we're just going to kind of make a little room for it. And we're going to slide that piece in so that it's over top and you can't see it from the bottom on one side of that line. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other. Come through here, make a little opening, and make some room. And we are going to run this one in as well. And I also want it to go over, so I want it I want to make some room here for it to come and go over top of and not under. I don't want it sticking out the bottom. I want it to come up. And so I'm just going to kind of push it till it does that. There we go. There we are. And then the spokes are hidden. And I'm just going to tuck it under there so that it's hidden. There we go. And now if you turn it over, you'll see you can't see where that spoke was added. Okay. This is going to be the inside of your basket. The bottom, it's going to come up and cup this way. Okay. So from this point forward, we're going to be weaving in pairs. And now that we've added our extra pair, when you go over under, you will now interchange between each level. And that's it. We're going to give it a start. And right where we left off, we're going to take this pair. We're going to give it a little bit of split. And we're going to go over, continue to go over and under. And now all of a sudden, you're going to start to see it, that plating take place. Here's that extra. Remember we added that extra one. We're going to take these two and go over, and we're going to take the next two and go under, and then we're going to take these two and go over. Here, look, I'm spreading them and then pulling this nice and close. The next two we're going to go under. Here we go. All right, see how that's going? Under, over, under, over, under, over. We're going to go all the way around, splitting into pairs. This makes a beautiful medallion, by the way. You could use parts of this to do all sorts of things. You could make Christmas ornaments with just this medallion. You can just kind of keep going in a circle and then trim it off and put some string on there and call it a Christmas ornament. It's a wonderfully versatile base for any basket, any round basket. And it's perfect for this one. So we've gone under here, over here, over this one, under this one, and all the while, again, I'm keeping it nice and tight to what I've already woven. You don't want it loosey-goosey. It will be harder to clean up at a later date. So use it, manipulate that reed, get it out of the way, split it apart. Your reed should be flexible. If for some reason your reed is not flexible, go ahead and dip it back into your water to get it wet. It should be nice and flexible. Okay, and now we're going to start to come back to the beginning to make sure that we have all of our over-unders. Like I missed one. over, under, over, under. And when you get to the beginning, if you are now not going opposite, going over where you went under before, then you need to stop, look back, and make sure you didn't miss any and skip over any, because that is in essence the weave. And if you want to catch that mistake now and not later. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning, and now I'm going to start going in the opposite. Where I went under, I'll now be going over. Okay, and you are just going to go ahead and continue to do this. Okay, making sure we kind of, you know, spread it apart. Try to make those spokes as even as possible all the way around. I'll move for you. At any time, if your reed is starting to get a little dry, just give it a dip. You don't have to give it a crazy soak. You don't need to soak it for a long period of time. This is very thin reed. It doesn't need soaked for a long period of time. If you over soak it, it will get mushy. So just a few minutes will do. All right. Over, under, over, under, over, under, all the way around. Okay. Now, the other thing is, move your piece. You know, keep your piece moving and rotating. It will make weaving a lot easier for you. And you'll see I'm taking the time now to make sure that we've got some nice tight gaps. And I'm shifting, making room for this to go over, under, over, under. Okay. Now at about this next round, once we get to the start again, you're going to start to see that it's going to start to want to pull up around the edges, and that's good. That's what we want to see, because this is a small mini basket. We're making an ornament basket for the tree. You don't want something too big. You're going to want to start to curve up. So see, I'm spinning the piece. To make weaving easier as I go. Okay, and again, we're doing over under pairs. At no point are we going to split those pairs up. We're going to continue to weave over under pairs. And I am coming around to that place where we went and doubled back. So that means I'm coming to the beginning. Just spreading this out. All right, now our piece is starting to already measure 2 by 2. So we really do want to start to pull up on the edges. And if you look to see, these are starting to cup up a little bit. So every other one you can see is starting to cup up, and we're going, as we go around, you're going to start to see the other ones cup up, and that's what we want. And so that means you might need to just make sure that you're giving it a little bit of tension. You know, if you sew, you want the tension in the thread, and that's what we're going to do. So as you can see, because we're using, we added that extra pair of weavers, you're going to see it will naturally start to, when you weave, it will do the opposite as you come back around. So let's go ahead and give it that little bit of tension as we're going around, and we're going to start to cup it up. And start to see it going up and around. Okay, this time, now that that bottom is pretty stable, this is the time that I like to kind of pick it up. You can do whatever you like. When I pick it up, it makes it easier for me to start to shape it. So if you see, I'm starting to create that cup. And that's what we want. So, and it helps me keep the tension. So I will go ahead and do that. And I'm keeping the weavers tight. You see me always pushing it down, keeping it tight. And it's starting to cup. This is what we want. over, under, over, under. It's a great mantra, and you can just keep going. It's okay if you think you've lost where we started, but you could always look back to where we doubled up, and just keep going. And it's starting to get a little white here. That means my reed is starting to get a little dry. I'm going to add some more water to it to make sure it doesn't crack. There you go. You can use a spray bottle. You can dip it. You can just use some water on your fingers. Now I want you to keep going, but I want you to start to form it, and I want it to start to cup in this direction, because the goal is really for it to be about, you know, this big. We don't really want it to get giant, so we want it to be about this big, and we're going to start to move in this direction with the weave. And you do that by keeping the tension on the weaver. And you'll see we'll push the bottom in to give it that nice bow effect on where the middle is pushed in. We'll have a nice like bowling going on down here. But for right now, I'd like you to just go ahead and get that cup up, and that's upturn the basket so that it starts to form sides. And keep weaving. Do another 5 or 6 rows and see where you're at, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so by now you've done a couple of rows, and your basket should start to look like this on the outside and this on the inside. It's starting to take a basket shape. And you know, really this is the point where you're in control of the shape that your basket comes out of. And if you're a beginner, you might feel maybe your basket is not quite exactly the shape that you wanted it at the moment. That's okay. I've had thousands of hours of practicing making baskets, and have a real just innate understanding of how reed behaves, and yours will get there too. If you have something that is made of reed and looks like a basket and holds things, then you have succeeded, and so you will succeed in this as well. So we're just going to keep going round and round. This is so cathartic. It's like meditating. Over, under, over, under. Every couple of rows, just check. Make sure that you don't have any where you've accidentally gone over 2. You should be switching every row between over and under naturally, just by going round and round. And we're just going to go ahead and continue to do that. And you'll notice that as I go, I'm pushing my reed down. I'm centering my spokes, making sure they're nice and straight as I go, so that my basket takes on a nice shape. If I want it to come in more, I'm adding just ever so more tension. It's not something that tension happens right away, so you don't want to pull it too tight, but constant tension will make your basket pull in, and loosening will make your basket go out. Sometimes you can put this in the spoke will go in. Hold the spoke and move the weaver around the spoke, so that your spoke is where you want it. Okay, so I have some loosey-goosey spokes, and they need me to give them a little hand when I come around them. I'm always checking where the spokes are at to make sure they're as equal as possible and they're as straight as possible as I go. They like to move around, so always be checking it. Now as I go, and as you see, I'm coming around here, pushing my weaver around. You'll notice that I'm starting to come to the end of a weaver, and you will inevitably have to put more material in, and I will show you exactly how to do that. So let's go ahead and finish this weaver up. Over, under, over, under, all the way around. You'll notice again, I'm trying to keep the spokes upright, so I'm moving the weaver around the spokes so that it's going in and out, holding the basket in the shape that I want it to be. And if the weaver is misbehaving and pushing my spokes in, I will give it less tension, and if it's going too wide, I'm giving it more tension. Okay, so over and under, constantly pushing down, shaping the basket. Oh, look, I almost did it. Look here, I almost went over 2. But I caught it right away because I was like, hey, that's not right. 2 weavers next to each other don't work. So back it up and make sure that you don't skip any. Okay, we're coming to the end here. This is so pretty already. All right, so when you come to the end, you want to crimp and insert it on the furthest spoke, furthest against the spoke. You could go over and under again, but it won't reach all the way. So we're going to go ahead and put it down in this section right here. So against the, if you're looking at the space between spokes, once you've come over the spokes and you're looking at the space between the next two, you want it to go and abut against the furthest. And here again, I'm going to go ahead and use my pliers to go ahead and pinch the reed where I want it to bend. Okay, so that it doesn't crack. And I really only want about 1/2 inch, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it about here and go ahead and bend it. And do you see that? That is going to tuck in right there. But how is that going to tuck? We're going to use our awl, and we're going to go in here and make some space. Get that in there, make a hole, and then run the end of your weaver down the space. Sometimes it gives you a fight, that's okay. You can put the awl in there, but you want it to go down into the space that you created, abutted against these far set of weavers. Okay, there we go. All right, and now we need to continue. But to continue, we need to add another weaver. So I've got the end of the new weaver. I've gone ahead and give it just like a little needle point. It's a lot easier to make that work. Come down about 1/2 inch, crimp it. Again, you can crimp it with your fingernails and then bend it. Okay, and then that is going to abut against the other one here. And we're going to still need to make a space for it. So we're going to take our awl. Be careful, these are sharp. If you're pushing the awl down and it slips, you don't want to poke yourself in the hand. There we go. And we're going to just run that right down. Oh, so tight. So I need to run the awl again. Give it a little bit more space. Okay, here we go. I leave it in sometimes to make sure there's enough space for it to run. Now when you do that, you are hiding your inserted pieces. And when you go ahead and keep going, you want to make sure that you are going in the direction that you would have been. So if you look, these two overlap, and it looks like you're just going to continue to go. So you don't want to come in here and keep going, because then you will be stacking your reed top on top, and that's not correct. You want it to go this way so that these two are like abutted against each other, and then you just keep going, and when you do, you're opposite, so you know that you've done that correctly. And you can't see it from the outside. See how that looks right there. Okay, now just keep going. And you're going to go ahead and keep going with your reed, double checking every row or two to make sure you didn't miss any spots. Didn't accidentally go over 2 instead of 1. And if you're doing this on your own and you want to add some colored reed, feel free to do that. Here we go. And the whole time, again, just kind of make sure your spokes are going in the right direction. This basket's about 2.5 inches. That's perfect. Yes, the bottom is still rounded. We'll address that shortly, but keep going. And I want you to kind of keep going all the way till you get about, 2.5 inches high, 3 inches high with all your material. If you want a shorter basket, you can stop sooner. If you want a longer basket, use all the material that's inside your kit. All right, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're getting to the point where we're just about ready to end our side weavers here. I've got a little bit of a tail left. I have decided on this basket, I would like it to pull in ever so slightly. So I'm just adding that, just a little bit of extra tension as I go along, to pull my spokes in just ever so slightly, so that there's just kind of a bell shape going on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and go around and finish the side levers. Here we go. And again, if you want it to go out, loosen your tension. If you want it to come in, add a little bit of tension, but you don't want to do it too hard, because if you do it too hard, then your spokes will collapse in, and that will not be good. So just a little bit of tension. As you can see, it's starting to kind of get this a little bit of a curve to it. In the bottom, you see it's curved out. Now, you can leave this like this. You can leave the bottom like that if you want, but I kind of like the look of it when the basket can sit on a table. So when you've come to the end, and just for our sake here of this video, I'm going to go ahead and trim this. I want to look in the basket here, and I can see that I doubled up on this strand. So for the time being, I'm just going to go ahead and mark it with a clip, and go ahead and come around. That way I have a nice even row. So I think for my basket now, I'm as high as I need to go. I have a little bit of extra material, but that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Same thing like as if I was adding material. I'm going to go across the inside there, over on the inside to the outer edge of the pear. Trim the excess off, pinch it, and then I'm going to slide it. Might even still be a little long. I'm going to trim a little bit more, and I'm going to bend it and slide it to right here so it can go right down. And I'm going to use my awl to make room, and just make sure I don't stab myself. And then let's make room for this piece to go in. So made a nice hole, and then we're going to just drop that in there. There we go. And then we have ended it. So now this is what my mini basket looks like, and I want to add a little extra shape to it. So I'm going to hold on to the sides, and I'm going to take my thumbs and I am going to press in. And doing that, I'm going to push in that bottom medallion of the basket. And now when you set it down, it will sit on its bottom. Kind of give it a little wiggle so it looks and feels straight. And the medallion will push in on the inside and then look like this on the bottom. And then it will sit on its little sides. Okay, so that is my basket where I wanted it to go. Now it's time to work on the rim, and to do that we need to soak our basket for a few minutes and get those reeds wet so that they don't break. So go ahead and take a few minutes and put them in your water, and we'll get started on the rim after about Okay, so now I have my basket's been soaking for about 5 minutes. My spokes are flexible, and that's where you want them to be. You don't want them to be dry, you want them to flex, because we're going to go ahead and weave the border on our little basket. We're going to be doing a braided border today. It might seem like it's complicated, but it's not as hard as you think. We're going to be making loops. So we're going to take this first one, loop it behind like this. The next one is going to loop behind the next one. Okay, And we're just going to make the loops about the same size all the way around. And at this point too, kind of try to make sure your spokes are about the same distance apart. Okay, and we're just gonna loopy loopy all the way around here. And when we get to the end, we're gonna tuck that last one into the first loop. As you go, it'll hold the other ones down. I just like to hold them so they're not like a crazy octopus. Don't know what to do with them. Okay, there we go. We have a little bit of a crack in that one. I don't want to see it, so I'm going to be careful with that. If you have one that cracks, you can replace it. You're just going to want to go ahead and cut it out and put a new piece of weaver in its place. Since we're using the same material, any piece will do. And then we're just going to go around like this. Those things do happen. Reed is a natural material. Because I'm doing a braid, it will hide in the braid, so I'm not too worried about it. But if you crack it off and you want to replace it, just cut it off and run a replacement piece of reed down next to it and keep going. And then this one that's left is going to tuck in and through the first one that we did. So now it looks like this. Now we're going to go back to the one we did, and we are going to run it under the next one and make them stick up. Under and stick up. Under and stick up. And you want the reed to be laying flat. You don't want it to be overlapping itself. So under and stick up. And then when you get to the last one, you're going to do the same thing, except this guy is going to go under, and see how this one is sticking up next to this one? It needs to stick up next to this one, so we have to go ahead and make room for it. I'll put my awl in here, make a space, and then we're going to take that last one and run it into the space that we just made. Make sure it doesn't overlap. And don't be afraid to use your tools if it does. There we go. They can be tricky sometimes. Here we are. Okay, so now it looks like this. Now we're going to go ahead and do the top part of the second braid and then the bottom part of the second braid. So the top part, we're going to go over, behind the thing that's sticking up, and then into the next loop. So let's pick one, and we'll start here. So we're going to go over, across, and into the next loop. So we have to make a little bit of space here. So over, across, and into the next loop, like so. Okay, and pull it tight, so then it will look like that. See that? Okay, we're going to do the same thing, over, across, and into the next loop. And you don't always need your awl, because sometimes the hole is big enough. But if not, just use your awl and open up the space. If your reed is starting to get brittle and you think it's cracking, go ahead and give it a wet to keep it nice and flexible. If something breaks, we will just cut the piece out where you can't see it, tuck in another piece and keep going. Okay, and you want it to stack on top. So you see how that is, stacking on top and coming out, stacking on top, coming out. So that's what we're gonna do, is stack on top, move this one out of the way, and come out the hole. Again, making sure we're trying to keep our reed in the right direction. There we go. See that? Okay, next one. Now, you want to make sure that we're going on top of, and this guy is not on top, so I need to move him out of the way. There we go. On top of, and through this hole, that's going to be a tight hole, so I'm going to open it up. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 stacked on top of each other. Okay. Okay, next one. Into the next hole. Next one across the top, and into the next hole. There we go. At the end, then we're going to do the same thing. We have to make a hole and tuck it in. So we're just going to come through. I need to open that one up a little bit more. So should ride the top. There we go. This one, let's come over. Ride the top, come through the hole. Okay, once we have gotten now the third part of the braid, and we've gone ahead and done our second section, and we're ready to move on to the bottom of the braid. So we are going to go ahead and do that bottom part of the braid. We can start anywhere, and you can see that the last part came in and is sticking out here, but there are two, there's the other pair here. All we're going to do is take these and run it into this hole right before those pairs, so that when you do it and you look at it, it is now 4 on top, 4 on bottom, 4 on top, and it's going to go right here in this hole. So I'm going to use my awl, move it out, and it will go right into the inside of the basket. Now, if you think your weavers are going to break, go ahead and just get them wet again. If they're starting to get dry and hard to work with, go ahead and get them wet again. But we're just going to go ahead and finish that bottom piece of the braid. So now we have 4 on top, 4 on bottom, and you've got this lovely braided border. I'm going to go ahead and get mine wet again, just to make sure that they stay flexible. So it doesn't take much, because we're just only going over this one spoke. So it's okay if you have some shorter pieces. We don't have to go far to go. That hole. Go ahead and get them in there. right? See, 4 on top, 4 on bottom. So this is what your braid should look like now that you have gotten it finished. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and when you get to the end, I'll show you how to end it. Okay, we're coming around to the end here. You can see all of the pieces are now on the inside, and then we're going to trim those off. But first, let's go ahead and finish these last 3. So this one's going to go in this hole, and remember to kind of keep them so that the 1, 2, 3, 4, they're nice and kind of even. We'll use our awl to make that hole a little bit bigger. Come in here, push those through, trying to keep them straight. There we go. And then this one goes in this hole. And again, this one, I want to keep them straight, so I don't want them to overlap. It's okay if it does, that's just my preference. Gonna get those in there, and if they're tight, you can reach in and grab them from the inside and pull them. Last one, gonna go in this hole. Here it goes. This one's big enough so I can fit it in. There you go. And now all of the pieces are on the inside, and that is our lovely braided border that we'll be using for this basket. So I'm gonna kind of give it a squish so everything's even. And then we're gonna go ahead and trim these pieces off on the inside. Now you want to trim them so that the tension of the reed is against the basket so they don't pop out. So you don't want to make them too short. You want to give them a good like 1/2 inch. So I'll show you right about there so that they're laying flat against the inside of the basket like that, so they don't pop out. So they'll lay on the inside on the border there. So I'll just go ahead and use my reed trimmers, go all the way around, giving them a little bit of room so that they have something to overlap on the next one to keep them from popping. And we'll just go all the way around. Okay, we'll just make sure we didn't miss any. Oh, and then I like to just push them up against the wall there. And if you have ones that stick out a little too far, you can go ahead and trim those. Just, you don't want to trim them too close because you don't want them to pop out. Always better to go back in and clean them up than to have them pop out. So there we go. And we have this lovely braided border on our little basket. Okay, now it's time to go ahead and put our handle on, and we're going to go into the last of our material, which is these 3 strands of 30 inches. And we're just going to go ahead and find the midpoint here. Okay, we're going to lace all 3 strands, and you can do this one of 2 ways. You can bring them all through and back in again. I like to put both sides in. So you're going to find a spot on your basket between 2 spokes, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and push those up, and I'm going to decide that this is my spot. So I'm going to go ahead on the left side of one spoke, make a hole, and put all 3 strands through that hole. Do it one at a time. You can put all 3 in, okay? Just to the halfway mark, which I've marked here as my fingers, okay? Which one of mine's running short? There you go. And then we're going to, on the other side of that spoke, use our awl under here on the lip, right to the edge there, the last of our side weavers. We're going to make that hole And then we're going to go ahead and lace the other 3 through. So again, it could be one at a time if that's easier, or all 3 together. Okay, and that should give you just a little bit of a loop on one side of the basket, and you should have all 6 pieces approximately equal all the way across in your basket. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull that in so you can't really see where that comes in. And now these are on the inside of the basket. You're going to separate these into pairs, 3 pairs of 2. Okay, and we are going to braid them. So here we go. From the outside goes into the middle there, like just a classic braid, like you used to braid your pigtails. 2 into the inside. Right 2 inside, left 2 inside. And you're going to braid for about 6 inches. And then this is going to now come from the inside of the basket and go out. So we need to separate this back into 3 and 3. So I'm going to take this middle one, this last middle I did, add one of them to the right side, left side, and one to the right side. 3 and 3. Okay, and then we're going to come, you want to come exactly across. So if you look inside your basket, you can see which one's going to be exactly across. You pick this one. That means this one right here is the one we want to come exactly across on. This is the one we're going to come out one side and out the other from the outside of your basket. Okay, so we're going to go inside to outside. I'm going to go ahead and make a hole with my, make that hole big with my awl for these 3. And just for my own sanity, I'm going to go ahead and trim them so they're the same height. It's a lot easier to maneuver them. There we go. And they're going to go from inside to outside, all 3 through that hole on one side of the spoke. And then we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side of the spoke. That is exactly opposite the one that we did before. So here we go. Again, just for my insanity, I'm going to trim those so that they're the same, easier to work with. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to push those through. There we go. Now that gives us 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and pull it nice and tight so you can't see where the braid ends. There we go. Look at that. And then we're just going to loop it. So we're going to come through here and we're going to make a nice little loop. Give it a good, nice, tight pull. And I'm going to adjust my ends here so that they're pretty. That's it. And then we're going to trim our ends. And then you can go ahead and just spread them out a little bit so that they look cute. There we go. Clean it up, and we'll use our little hair trimmers here, and you can come back through and trim up any of these little hairs that have you know, come off the wood as you're working with it. And you can just go through and trim those off. Don't pull them because they'll pull the reed, and you could basically shred the reeds. So just go in with these little trimmers or little sewing scissors or hair scissors and trim up your basket, and then you'll have this really cute, adorable little basket you can fill with candy. You can put on the tree, hide them on your tree filled with candy or treats that the kids need to find. It makes great teachers gifts and great seniors gifts if you do any work at senior centers, that kind of thing. So these are going to be a favorite go-to, and I hope you enjoyed making it.